William James, the man who founded modern psychology, spent his entire life searching for one answer. How do we find meaning when life feels empty, when God seems silent, when nothing seems to matter? His final answer was simple, but it changed millions of lives. Meaning is not found. It is made. Through habits, choices, emotions, and beliefs, we create the life we want to live. Tonight, in part 23, his final secret to living a meaningful life. How habits, emotions, and beliefs can save you from emptiness. And the one idea that still helps people find purpose in a chaotic world. Stay until the end, because his last message will give you the strength to start creating your own meaning tomorrow. By this point in his career, William James had firmly established himself as a thinker whose work bridged psychology, philosophy, religion, and ethics. His focus on the practical consequences of ideas, beliefs, and habits was central to his later writings. He sought to understand how human consciousness, emotion, and social interaction could guide action, moral judgment, and personal development. Page 5 of Chapter 5 emphasizes his mature vision and the integration of psychology, philosophy, and pragmatism. One key theme during this period was the psychology of belief. James explored how people form convictions, and why certain beliefs endure even without complete proof. He argued that belief is shaped by emotion, habit, and social environment, not just rational analysis. Beliefs provide meaning, guide practical action, and influence behavior. By examining beliefs scientifically and philosophically, James connected the study of human thought to ethical and practical outcomes. He demonstrated that understanding belief is crucial for education, personal development, and moral guidance. Religious and spiritual experience was another focus. James approached religion from a psychological perspective, emphasizing the personal and subjective dimension. He studied religious conversion, mystical experiences, and profound moments of insight to understand their effects on consciousness, emotion, and moral behavior. He argued that authentic religious experience can inspire courage, ethical action, and personal growth. Religion, for James, was not only a source of comfort or community, but also a guide for living a meaningful and morally responsible life. Consciousness remained central to his work. James emphasized that religious, moral, and philosophical experiences are part of a continuous flow of thought. Attention, memory, emotion, and habit shape these experiences, while belief and expectation guide interpretation. Consciousness is purposive and adaptive, shaped by practical concerns, moral choices, and personal goals. By linking consciousness to habit, emotion, and social interaction, James provided a framework for understanding how individuals experience meaning and make moral and practical decisions. Habit continued to be a foundational concept. James observed that repeated behaviors shape character, influence decisions, and guide moral development. Developing positive habits requires conscious effort, reflection, and repetition. Ethical and intellectual habits support practical action, moral responsibility, and personal growth. Habit, in James's view, links psychological knowledge directly to ethical practice, showing that the study of behavior can guide meaningful action and moral development. Emotion was integral to his framework. James highlighted the interplay between feeling, cognition, and action. Emotions shape attention, memory, and perception, influencing both moral judgment and practical decision-making. Understanding emotional experience is critical for guiding ethical behavior, personal growth, and social interaction. By integrating emotion with consciousness, habit, and belief, James developed a holistic view of human motivation and behavior. social observation remained crucial. James studied how culture, education, and social expectations influence habit, belief, and ethical behavior. He examined how individuals respond to authority, peer influence, and societal pressures. This focus on social context reinforced his understanding of behavior as emerging from the interplay of individual, disposition, habit, and environment. Social observation informed his applied work in education, ethics, and moral philosophy, demonstrating the importance of context in shaping human action. Pragmatism served as a guiding principle. James argued that the value of beliefs and ideas lies in their practical effects. A belief is meaningful if it helps individuals act, solve problems, or improve life. Pragmatism bridges theory and practice, ensuring that philosophical, ethical, and psychological inquiry connects directly to human experience. James applied pragmatism to religion, morality, and daily life, emphasizing the need for ideas to be both true and useful in guiding conduct. By the end of this stage, William James had developed a fully integrated vision of human life. Consciousness, habit, emotion, belief, social context, and practical application formed a unified framework for understanding human experience. Page 5 of Chapter 5 illustrates his mature work on pragmatism, moral development, religious experience, and ethical guidance. His ideas demonstrated that psychology, philosophy, and practical ethics are inseparable in guiding meaningful and purposeful living. Through this integration, James offered a comprehensive approach to the study of the human mind and its role in shaping thought, action, and morality. At this stage of his life, William James was increasingly focused on how philosophical ideas, psychological insights, and religious experiences could guide practical living. His work emphasized that human life is shaped not only by reason but also by emotion, habit, and social context. He continued to study consciousness, belief, and moral development, showing that these dimensions are interconnected and vital for understanding how people act and live meaningful lives. One of James's primary interests was the role of belief in shaping human experience. He examined why people hold certain convictions and how these beliefs influence their perception, decision-making, and behavior. Beliefs, he argued, are often rooted in emotion, habit, and social environment, rather than solely in logic or evidence. People tend to adopt beliefs that provide meaning, motivate action, and help them navigate uncertainty. By studying beliefs scientifically and philosophically, James demonstrated that understanding conviction is essential for education, moral development, and personal growth. Religion remained central to his studies. James analyzed religious experiences, including conversion, mystical insight, and moments of profound moral or spiritual awareness. He approached religion as a psychological phenomenon, focusing on its effects on consciousness, emotion, and behavior. Authentic religious experiences, he argued, could inspire ethical action, courage, and personal development. Unlike purely doctrinal approaches, James emphasized the individual and subjective dimension of religion, highlighting how spiritual life can influence practical living and moral choices. Consciousness continued to be a core theme. James described it as a continuous, flowing process shaped by attention, memory, emotion, and habit. Experiences of belief, moral reflection, or religious insight are part of this ongoing stream. Consciousness is purposive, guided by personal goals, ethical considerations, and practical concerns. By connecting consciousness with habit, emotion, and social context, James offered a comprehensive framework for understanding human life. showing how experience, thought, and action are interrelated. Habit remained a guiding principle in his philosophy and psychology. James argued that repeated actions, both intellectual and ethical, form the foundation of character. Developing good habits requires effort, reflection, and consistency. Habits influence perception, decision-making, and moral behavior. By understanding how habits shape life, James linked psychology directly to ethical development and practical action, demonstrating that cultivating virtues is as much a matter of practice as of theory. Emotion played an essential role in his thinking. James emphasized that feelings are integral to cognition, belief, and moral judgment. Emotions influence attention, memory, and perception, shaping how people understand the world and respond to challenges. By integrating emotion with consciousness, habit, and social observation, James provided a holistic model of human motivation and behavior. Emotional life, he argued, is inseparable from rational thought and ethical reflection. Social observation continued to inform his work. James studied how education, social norms, and cultural expectations influence habit, belief, and moral development. He examined how individuals respond to authority, peer influence, and societal pressures. This focus on social context reinforced his understanding of human behavior as the product of the interaction between individual disposition, habit, and environment. By incorporating social observation, James demonstrated that personal and moral development cannot be understood apart from the community and society in which individuals live. Pragmatism remained central to his approach. James maintained that the value of beliefs and ideas lies in their practical consequences. A belief is meaningful if it helps individuals act, solve problems, or improve their lives. Pragmatism bridges theory and practice, emphasizing that intellectual and philosophical inquiry must have real-world relevance. James applied pragmatism to religion, ethics, and daily life, highlighting the importance of ideas that are both true and useful. By the end of this stage, James had developed a fully integrated approach to understanding human experience, consciousness, habit, emotion, belief, social context, and practical application, formed a coherent framework for personal and moral development. Chapter 5 highlights his mature insights into belief, religion, pragmatism, and ethical life. James's work during this period demonstrates the full integration of psychology, philosophy, and practical guidance, offering a model for understanding human thought, behavior, and moral responsibility. William James left the world with a complete map to a meaningful life. But his greatest adventure was still hidden. In Chapter 6, starting tomorrow, you'll discover the forbidden experiments with drugs that proved his philosophy, the secret crisis that tested everything he believed, and the final legacy that made him immortal. Chapter 6, Part 24 drops tomorrow 8 p.m. sharp. Subscribe plus bell on. The journey is reaching its peak.